Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Alatar, and today there's a storm brewing in my brain, and I'm going to teach you how to summon a similar storm through complex pentagrams and incantations and all of that kind of detail, so that this time when you're using my help, your spell doesn't re-summon Belial like last time, because I know that a lot of things have been very strange since your mom had that affair with him, and of course, you still have reservations about your demon half-brother, which is understandable. I mean, everybody has reservations toward their demon half-brother. It totally makes sense. I remember when I... What? Wrong channel? Wrong... Okay. But we can edit this out, right? But I'm editing it, so why can I... Oh, okay, got it. Well, ignore that. What I meant to say was, brainstorming. So that was an elaborate intro joke. So then, hey, how's it going everybody? My name is SockBot, and today we're going to talk about brainstorming. Now, this is a super extensive topic, and nobody brainstorms exactly the same way, so if you are having trouble coming up with ideas for levels, please continue watching this, and of course pay no attention to that subliminal messaging about devil worship. Please like the video and subscribe if you want to see more exactly like this, minus all that weird demon stuff. So, I have two techniques that I want to talk about today, both of which are my most used techniques in general, that I'm sure some of you use, but then of course perhaps some of you don't use. Yeah, so the first one that I use has to do with recreation. And I mean recreation, not recreation, because create mode is not at all fun or anything like that, like recreational stuff. What are you thinking? It's totally simple work for a goal that nobody will ever play, don't you agree? Well, clearly if you do, you didn't watch my last video, so you should go do that. Bam, nailed that plug. Okay, but once you're done, come back here, cause I'm gonna educate you. I'm gonna make you more learned and teach you more about recreation. So there are two kind of types of recreation that I use. The second one is far more interesting, but the first one is more direct. So brainstorming technique 1A, sure. So this technique is to recreate a level or an area from a game directly. This is where you find all of those Mario clones on Media Molecule servers and that kind of stuff. Now, posting these is technically against their terms of service, so you totally shouldn't do it, but when you create it totally just for yourself, and definitely don't upload the entire series of Super Mario 3 to their servers, well, the process is pretty straightforward. You're creating the scene or level from a game as is, and then you're adapting it slightly so that it plays similar to how it does in real world in Littlebigplanet and Dreams. Now, I don't love this idea because it requires pretty much the same amount of work as a fully custom level, and yet you can't take full credit for it. And these levels are definitely impressive on their own, and they definitely are very cool in their own right, but this sort of brainstorming is more for when you want to create levels to practice your skills. So I did talk about this in a previous video, again, you can totally go watch that, but let's move on to the second part of recreation that I do actually mention in that same video. I'm not going to go super into explaining it, the idea, but I have come up with a name for it. I call it perverting a scene. And I know that sounds really bad, but here's the basis of how to do this in one sentence so I don't repeat myself. Take a screenshot or a picture of the area in another game that you want to recreate. Then copy the shapes and the basic shapes from that scene using very bland materials in Littlebigplanet or Dreams, and then customize those objects with a different theme. So for example, if the source game is a sci-fi game, make those objects fit a horror, a fantasy, or some kind of grungy realistic theme. Okay, so that was kind of two sentences, but expanding from what I mentioned in that previous video, this is not meant to replace brainstorming entirely. Instead, when you do this, you only want to build one area to serve as inspiration for the rest of your level or game. Maybe certain parts of that area that you recreated stand out as interesting, or maybe other parts are really time-consuming to make. Focus on the parts that stand out to you, and then try to expand upon those for the rest of your level. If you make a scene from Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, using horror scenery, well, that's amazing to begin with, and definitely don't steal that, because writing this, I really wanted to make that myself, but if you did steal it from me, you might think like me, and want to focus less on the speed aspect of Sonic, and more on like the verticality of the levels. So once you build a scene like this, maybe with the loops and the vertical walls that Sonic will normally run on, you find that it would be more interesting to keep those, but then run the level at a slower pace. Okay, well now since it's slower, you need a reason why your character can still stick to the walls and run up them and run around the loops, And then you also lose a fun part of Sonic, which is the speed of Sonic. So what can you replace it with? Well, yeah, there you go. Screwing with a scene like that creates a bunch of these little problems, but then answering those problems in any way, really, will give you a unique idea for a level. And there you go. That's brainstorming finished for that one. Now, of course, maybe you couldn't think of a weird way to pervert a level like this, and I totally get that. There are only so many genres, and maybe, you want to create one in a specific genre that encapsulates all the games that you would normally play anyways. Well, if you still need another technique, listen to me explain exactly how to do that. Well, or don't. I'm not your mom, so far as I know. Anyways, the second technique is called the fill-in technique. This requires a bit more effort to begin with, but it's also super easy after. So initially you're going to use a super basic brainstorming technique that every kind of artist uses all the time. Take a picture of a scene literally anywhere, but in this case it doesn't have to be unique. It can be your backyard, or the apartments across the street, or the desk that you're sitting at, while you work and watch this video because you have dirt on your boss and don't have to do any work, because if he makes you do work, well, you'll reveal that he's secretly 4 chipmunks in a trench coat. You wouldn't do that, would you, Desmond? Really hope that nobody's boss is named Desmond, or this is going to be really weird. Well, anyways, boring picture, you got it. Alright, so you have this picture, boring or interesting. You could just recreate it as an environment for your level, and that would be fine. And boring, but fine. So if you do want to be one of the cool kids, not like the druggy cool kids from high school, but like a cool kid, like us nerds here at SockBot Incorporated, look at that picture and either draw over it like physically, or use your imagination to fill in certain objects in that scene with a material that ordinarily wouldn't make sense. For example, if your picture is of a forest or of a few trees, like my backyard here in rural Pennsylvania, don't remake Slender Man. Instead, imagine or draw over those trees to make them look like they're made out of metal, for example. If you have an industrial scene, do the exact opposite. Apartment buildings made of grass, or a power plant made of glass, just like you would fill in something in Littlebigplanet with another material, except make it very weird and different from the original. So that means no wooden trees, no fabric couches, no brick apartments. Okay, you got your weird scene? Great. Now, if you're an actor, this next part's going to be quite easy, but otherwise it might take a minute. You're going to take this weird scene and make it make sense. Explain away all the problems you created by making it weird. So the metal trees are obviously the work of robots who needed a large solar panel enclosure to keep their batteries charged. And they learned that the best way to absorb light was, how plants do it, how they photosynthesize. So yeah, there you go. The robots did it. Cool, duh. Alright, so now you have a weird world, and it makes sense enough to make a level about. Again, this is only brainstorming, so I'm not going to tell you where to start or how to get started, because I do have a lot of other videos on that, but this technique totally works. I've used it very, very frequently, and I do find that it gives me some of the most unique ideas. I mean, I call weird unique, but those kinds of ideas that I've ever had. So I know that this was only 2 brainstorming techniques, but they are 2 of my favorites. I do have other favorites, and I'll totally make another video about them, so if that does sound like something that you want to see personally, let me know in a comment down below. Gosh, I'm so good at these plugs, but if this video helped at all, leave me a like, because, I really like you, like more than a friend, and it's getting pretty serious between us. But anyways, subscribe and follow me on Instagram if you wanted to get more serious, or if you just want to see my face more. But regardless, no pressure. Either way, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video. Sorry this was weird. I'm in a weird mood today. But yeah, that's all for today. So goodbye.